So when I was like 13, I ran into this guy who was a master diver in Oklahoma, of all places, not the Cayman Islands. But he asked me if I wanted to go diving, and before I knew it, I was in his pool. And then about 2 hours later, we were on the edge of a boat. I remember making the descent into that kind of murky water, and the deeper we got, the darker it got. And I remember the primary lesson that he had left with me on my first dive, which is that descending actually is a lot easier in diving, a lot less dangerous than ascending. So when you're diving, going down is no problem. It's the speed with which you come up that can cause all the problems. And in fact, if you come up too fast, you get what we call the bends, which is this terrible cramping, and it can even cause death. The only cure for too fast of an ascent, turns out, is to actually descend again and come up at a slower pace. And all of that really later kind of came together with the teachings of Jesus, who redefined what actually makes a person great in the way that we actually rise. And so in life as we know it, we're always self-promoting and trying to put ourselves ahead and, take the first place. And Jesus taught us a completely different way. It's the way of humility, where we actually take the lower place, that we begin to see the value in actually being able to acknowledge our need. And so Jesus said things like this. He said, I came not for those who are well, but for the sick. I'm the great physician who actually meets the person who can actually acknowledge their need. Or he said things like, let the little children come, because the kingdom of heaven actually belongs to people like these. And he was pointing out over and over again that when it comes to our relationship with God and to the things that actually matter long-term in our lives, that the secret of it actually is the ability to acknowledge honestly and humbly the true condition of our lives, which is that we don't have it all together, that we are people with needs. We're people who actually need something beyond ourselves. And the first step in actually accessing that is a humble heart. So the New Testament actually gives us this principle in James. He says that God actually draws near or comes close to the person that has a humble heart, but he actually resists the proud. And so there we have it all in a nutshell, that the secret to the Christian life, actually the first principle, is this idea of humility, that if we really want to go up, we got to go down. And that everything opens up in relationship to God only to the degree to which we remember actually who we are, that we're a person that's broken, that we actually have needs, that we're able to acknowledge that. And as we do, grace comes in. God actually runs to that rather than away from it. But when we ascend too fast, when we try to make ourself and getting ahead the agenda of our lives, paradoxically, we actually sink. So personally, I choose humility because in Jesus' way, the way up actually is the way down.